well, we hear you, we see what's happening in your communities, we see that this over-militarization of the police, we see that, you know, there are black men dying in record numbers.
Which they don't care.
And, you know,
which they don't care. They haven't, nobody's spoken out about that, right?
Yeah, exactly. But what they do go for is the tried and true race baiting, and that's what they think. And so there was an ad, let's see, I have that on a SoundCloud there for you guys. I don't know if we can play that, but it's basically, they pull in the Trayvon Martin case, and they know that that's going to pull on the emotions of black voters out there, and anyone that was really riled up about the Trayvon Martin shooting, and just kind of pointing that out. But they go to those, they talk about Ferguson and things like that, where it's really going to say, these people aren't like you, so you don't vote for them.
We notice how they talk about Ferguson. They'll focus on the racial part of it, but they won't talk about police brutality or anything else. And of course, I'm not saying that I don't know how that, how that's going to ultimately shake out. It looks like they're not going to indict the guy. And the very fact that they waited so long to introduce evidence that might have cleared him, I think that is very suspicious, that they wanted to see something like this. I think Mary Landrieu is the perfect example of it, because it's not just the black vote, but it's also the woman's vote, which has reliably gone for Democrats. And so when Mary Landrieu looks like she's going to lose re-election to the Senate and Louisiana, she says it's because Louisiana is racist.
And sexist.
And sexist, yes, because they don't like Obama because they're racist, and they don't like Mary Landrieu because they're sexist, even though she has been elected 3 times and Obama has been elected twice. It's about their policies.
Right.
It's really about their policies, but they can't accept responsibility for their policies. Their policies can't be wrong. It has to be about them personally. Same thing that we're seeing with Mitch McConnell. They try to make it about the person. You like this person or you don't like this. It's all identity politics. Or
Charlie Rangel is famous for that. He says, some Republicans believe that slavery isn't over. They still think they're in the Civil War. They don't realize, it's, and so that, he goes and does this.
Except Charlie Rangel is in the party that the Grand Dragon or whatever Byrd was in. He was, Senator Byrd was a Ku Klux Klan guy.
Right. Well,
he had no problem with him when he was a Democrat.
Right. Well, we've got another political ad. It's not necessarily for a certain candidate, but it does kind of really draw attention to this fact that people aren't, really focusing on the fact that there is an over-militarization of the police, and this campaign ad is basically saying, vote or buy a vest, meaning young black men are going to need to just go ahead and buy a vest if they don't vote properly.
Well, of course they're going to ban those as well.
Yeah.
Randy, did you study?
Yes.
You studied?
Yes, Mom.
Baby, I'm gonna need you to wear that vest today.
Mom, are you serious? I'm not gonna wear that vest.
I need to know when I'm at work that you're going to be safe. Do it for me.
All right, Mom, I'll do it for you.
So she's putting a vest on him.
Right, and people want to, they want to make this racial thing about Ferguson, but this is what people have to consider.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that, when I was at the Bundy Ranch, we were talking about Ferguson earlier, and I got to say, the people there did it right. They stood up, they passively resisted, they understood who it was that was pointing guns all week at everybody. Of course, the press spent it around and said that it was, they had a picture of one guy on the bridge that was pointing a gun. They didn't show the BLM pointing the guns. They didn't talk about the BLM pointing guns all week at everybody. They didn't talk about the BLM taking people down. But the people there at the Bundy Ranch and their neighbors had just had enough of that kind of intimidation. They quietly got together and just went up there and said, you're going to give us back our property, and we want our rights back as well. They understood what it was about. That was a very, very powerful moment. I've had a police officer contact me and talk about a document he had seen that, the Homeland Security was very concerned about that. They thought that was a seminal moment, and I think it was a seminal moment. It caused them to expose, one of their chief assets with, Glenn Beck. coming out and making some outrageous claims about that. So it's very important for us to understand what the solutions are to these things, not get sidetracked into the racial issues, but understand that this is about an abuse of power. And that's something that we can all support. You don't have to be black or white, but they want to keep people focused and pitted against each other, because if they break us into different groups, different racial groups, different language groups, different sex groups, then they can pit man against woman and black against white and Spanish against English and everything. They don't want it to be about an abuse of power. They don't want it to be about individual liberty. Let's take a break, and after the break, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about Democrats that are running from Obama, and we're going to be right back after the. Oh, let's go. Oh, wait, before we go to break, Dew is telling me that Biggs has got some stuff on the Twitter wall. Biggs?
Hey, Joe Biggs here. Also, I want you guys to check out the new Mulan Labe shirt right here. This is a new shirt we got in at the INFOWARS store. So definitely go there and pick one of those up. I like mine. It's pretty awesome. But I want to get to one of these, a couple tweets. Now, some of them are pretty interesting. Let me see. Here we go. Are there any candidates stating that they would be willing to impeach Obama?
I haven't heard any say that.
That is from @Lance True Patriot.
See, I've heard just the opposite from Boehner. You know, he famously said that he's not going to do anything to impeach Obama. And that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about in depth tomorrow as part of our election coverage, bringing not only the results, but we're going to talk about what it's going to look like after the election. Of course, we're all concerned about what Obama is going to do as a lame duck president with his pen and his cell phone. There's no telling what he's going to do. And we're also concerned about what they're covering up as far as Ebola is concerned, what he's going to do in terms of blanket amnesty. And of course, with all of this, I don't see the Republican leadership, certainly not in the Senate either. If Mitch McConnell gets in there, I don't see McConnell or Boehner doing anything about that. I think the leadership will shut that down if there's a few people that do want to have impeachment. What do you think?
Well, I think some people are saying that with even the Bo Bergdahl swap, that was just by not letting Congress know, giving that 30-day notice with that is an impeachable offense. I mean, there's so many things that keep piling up. But Dan Bongino actually spoke with Alex Jones about that, and he said that we just haven't been able to really get full public support for something like that. And you would have to build a whole case for indictment, and that's just not going to happen without that support that you need to do that.
Well, see, the problem is that I have a real problem with people not trying. You know, I think the biggest failure is the failure to try. And I think we would have a lot more confidence, and we would see who the real men are if they would stand up and do the right thing, regardless of the consequences.
Right.
That's the issue. Are you going to do the right thing? And the answer is a resounding no from the GOP. I don't think that we're going to see any movement on that. You got anything else, Joe?
Do any of you guys vote, and if so, why?
Go ahead. You want to take it?
Well, of course I vote. I think that voting, I mean, even the last election, last two elections actually, if I had to write in Ron Paul's name and everyone says, well, your vote is going to be wasted. Why would you do that? You're here in Texas. You've got to vote for this guy or that guy. But I refuse to vote for the lesser of two evils. That's, I mean, that's not even, doesn't even sound right on your conscience. Why would you go that route? And just like you said, the failure to try, I don't want to buy into that meme, really, that your vote doesn't count, and that if you vote for someone who's not a favored party, that your vote is wasted. Because more people need to speak up about that and to really say, well, why wasn't Ron Paul, for instance, brought into the debates? He was running second in so many different polls, but they completely hid him from that, and people just kind of sat back and said, oh, it's all rigged.
Yeah.
And that's what they want us to believe.
You got to think a lot of those guys, you know, Ron Paul could have made it if they actually let the votes count of the soldiers that are deployed. Now, these guys get these absentee ballots, but they don't even make it out of Afghanistan to be counted. They said the only time that they may possibly bring in these absentee ballots, these soldiers fill out, I mean, on top of that, they're out there fighting for their country. The only way their vote can count is if it's a very, very close race. Then they'll allow someone to fly those votes over and possibly be counted. Yeah, that's something else that needs to be looked into as well.
Well, as I said earlier, I'm skeptical about elections, but I'm not a cynic about elections. I feel like even if it's just out of desperation, I think we ought to do everything possible that we can. But I think that there's a lot of value in people seeing the corruption of the system. And I think a lot of people saw that with Ron Paul. I mentioned that earlier. You know, it was a real quixotic thing. He didn't have a chance of winning the first 2 times he ran, once as a Libertarian, once as a Republican. The second time, I think it was stolen from him, and I think people saw that. It's important for people to understand what's going on. So from one aspect, you could say elections can be about educating people about issues. We try to do that all the time here at INFOWARS Nightly News and with Alex Jones's radio show, try to educate people about the issues and what's behind it. But I think that's an important thing for them to see the corruption in the electoral system. And I think it needs to be addressed directly. It's not happening. We're going to be talking tomorrow to Bev Harris, who's with Black Box Voting. There's other projects out there like True the Vote that watches the election polls. There's a lot of ways that people can get involved, but I think at the local level, a lot of people are so focused on the upper parts of the ballot ticket that they don't look downstream, look at their neighbor who they may know that this person is an honest person. We've got a couple of people running here in Austin that I trust and I've talked to personally. You have to not be a total cynic. You have to get involved. You have to do the right thing, just like we were talking about before. What do you think of these Republicans who see all the illegal actions of Obama and then just say, yeah, but, you know, I couldn't really win if I went up against him, so I'm just not going to do anything? I mean, are we going to be like those Republicans? Are we going to be that cynical, that focused on saying, well, I can't win, so I'm not going to try anything? Sometimes you don't know what you can do until you try. I think you ought to always give it the best try that you can.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Joe? One more?
One more. This is from at Grown Folks TV1. Do you really think Dems will lose the Senate?
Well, Washington Post gives that about a 97% chance. I think the New York Times gave it like 90%. I think the lowest that I've seen is like a 68% probability that will happen. It looks like from people who analyze this, so if you look at the Washington Post, they're going in state by state, and they're saying that they have a 99% certainty that this person's going to win here, and on a state-by-state basis. I think the one, as I was just kind of going over it with a mouse and looking at the different ones, I think the one that they had the least certainty about was North Carolina, where they had said it was an 80% probability that would go to Kay Hagan, who's the Democrat incumbent there. That's a good example of somebody who is a very strong Obama supporter, down the line Democrat, has virtually voted with him on every issue except one judge that he put up for nomination, distancing herself from Obama, but not so much that the people don't want her, it's that the Republicans have basically put up a non-entity there, somebody who they obviously recognize as something that is just somebody who's a puppet for corporate control, and that's Tom Tillis. Once the Republicans got control of the House in North Carolina in the 2010 elections, he was made the Speaker of the House over a guy who really was a kind of Tea Party candidate, Skip Stam, who was a straight-up guy there. And again, there are good people in politics. Right. There are good, honest people in politics. And what the Republican machinery did was they took somebody who had only been in 1 or 2 terms before that, put him over the guy who had been a minority leader for a very, very long time, who was an honest Tea Party guy. They put Tom Tillis in as Speaker of the House, and then the next thing you know, he's running for Senate.
Right,
and they got the Tea Party candidate out in the primaries.
And it's such an important election year because there are only 6 seats that could make a difference in who will control the Senate. And the Dems know they're down, and that's why you kind of see there's not a lot of talk on, ABC, NBC, not a lot of talk about. Well,
the GOP is going to get their majority in spite of this race, but I tell you what, if they hadn't scuttled the candidacy of the Tea Party candidate there in North Carolina, he would be way up over Kay Hagan, and we'd have a real representative. But they don't want that. I think they'd rather have somebody who's going to follow the same line. They've got Tweedledee and Tweedledum are the choices there on the ballot for Senate in North Carolina. Right. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a short break. Join us again when we come back. We're going to be talking about Democrats who are running as hard as they can from Obama. Stay with us.
You are watching the InfoWars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. Members can share their passcodes with up to 11 other people, and your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.
In the past decade, we have witnessed unparalleled scientific discoveries in the area of health. but no one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time.